for With LA. So thank you. So I'd love to welcome up Gale Anne Hurd to the stage. Thank you. Welcome. I wanted to ask, first of all, this initiative we just heard from today, the 10% for 50-50, is money talking. It's about the finance. And why do you think something like that is important to affect change? That it's not just good intentions, it's something on paper?
The truth is that everything is decided based on the bottom line, based on how you can get the lowest budget possible. And if you have 10% from a number of companies, that really adds up in a significant way. Just to give you an example, one of the reasons that The Walking Dead films in the state of Georgia, going back 10 years now, first of all, the comic book was set there, so that was very nice. But there was a major tax incentive, and that's why we've stayed there. So this is something that hopefully will be a long-term endeavor, and I think that many of my projects have already qualified for it. So I'm very excited to seek it out and to promote it, and to encourage companies to join the initiative.
Great, thank you. I want to talk about a little bit about your career, and you've had this amazing career stretching back a few decades, and
that's why you call me veteran.
Yeah.
Not because I served in a war.
No, but it's kind of like serving in a war, isn't it? Sometimes
sort of, yeah.
Producing. You've even spoken about when you were in the 80s trying to make Aliens. Some studio exec came up to you and said, "How can a little girl like you produce a big movie like this?" And you'd already produced Terminator.
Well, they thought it was a one-off. And then the other question I got was, well, who really produced it?
Yeah. How did you sort of battle through that when that happened?
Well, the other thing that we're talking about today is how important it is to have men be part of the partnership. And from the very beginning, I had mentors, women mentors, like Deborah Hill, who was also on the Women in Film board with me back in the day, and whose name should never be forgotten because she was a real trailblazer. And also women like Barbara Boyle, who is a co-founder of Women in Film. And Roger Corman, who was my first boss. And the very first film that I worked on set on that Roger produced was, Humanoids from the Deep, directed by a woman. There were women editors, there were women writers. At New World Pictures under Roger Corman, women worked in every capacity. And I believe that was the way things were until I got into the studio system and realized that I was back in times with dinosaurs. But I think it's very important. I always had men who backed me. So when 20th Century Fox didn't think I could produce Aliens, they went to the late Lindsley Parsons from Film Finances, who said, no, Gale really produced the Terminator, and Roger Corman, and a number of people.
Right, so you got to have those right mentors and people.
Well, first you have to be qualified and do the work and have the talent.
Yes.
And then you need people to back you up. Hopefully less now than back in the 70s and 80s. But it's important not to burn your bridges.
I did want to ask how you perceive, have things changed now? Is there still sexism that you encounter? Is it still in the studio system?
I think until there's a shift, which all of us as filmmakers and creators of content can help make that change, that there are sociocultural biases that people aren't even aware of. And that's something we can all work proactively to change. At the same time, I do see so many more women under consideration for writing, directing, line producing, Most of my films have starred women to begin with, so that's not something new to me. But the other change that I'd like to see more of is behind the camera in all of the different craft departments. I think we need more training programs. I think we need initiatives there, and that's something I'd like to help out with.
Right. And so is with LA, they're already working a bit on
Yes.
some of that. Yeah. Do you think training is the secret for
That's
getting
the
more
whole
female
thing. Is that there's the sense that there are things women can't do. Once again, I think this is socio-cultural bias. So when you're given an opportunity, you need to be prepared to succeed once that opportunity presents itself.
And just to end like I did with Kirsten, does it feel like things are really changing now, especially in the past year or so? Does it feel like a new momentum?
I think there absolutely is momentum, and the whole point is not like a wave to let it carry you forward and then recede back into the ocean. We need to keep pushing. We need to take this initial progress and make it something that is not just a temporary solution to a temporary problem, but make it literally the face of the industry, and not just the film industry, but all industries.
What brilliant words. I think we can wrap up there, because that's a good call to action. And thank you so much, Gale, for being here. I just want to thank all the groups that presented today. 10% for 50/50. I want to get the Alliance's name right. Alliance of Women's Networks. Thanks again to the Norwegian Film